that portrayal, I think, is contradicted by that attendance I had at Veterans Day, last Veterans Day, in fact, in this very building, Grover Northwest Group, had someone from the Marines who was testifying how devoted he was to the United States and its culture, and he was willing to sacrifice his life to defend the Republic. And, ladies and gentlemen, he was a Muslim. He was a Muslim, and he wasn't the only one in his contingent there. So to suggest that all the Muslims are enemies, we have them fighting in our armed forces, and he was as loyal an American as you could find. Because one of the things that the Founding Fathers believed, there's only one race, there's only one religion in the United States, it's American. It's the values and the creed that hold us together. And with regard to this claim, it seems to me that Jeff has tacitly conceded we're in the war forever, because his basic idea is we have to kill every single Muslim on the planet. Maybe we have to go interplanetary if we think Islam has gotten its way to Mars. But there's no stopping point to his idea. And whether he's maybe make it illegal to convert to Islam, like some countries make it illegal to convert to Christianity from Islam, that's the only way you can make us safe. But that, in my judgment, is destruction of the whole reason why there is a United States of America. And let's also ask, his idea is that these Islamic radicals are driven solely because they hate America. They hate the fact that we have women here who don't have burqas on, that they can sit with men, that we have a separation of church and state. I think that's utterly and completely ludicrous. He suggested we didn't have any foreign projection of our of the United States military at the time of 9/11 or at the earlier times of Khobar Towers. We had troops, bases in the Middle East. We've got bases in 135 countries, tens of hundreds of thousands of troops deployed abroad. That's been true for decades. Been true for decades. And one of the things that's very telling is that when we try to infiltrate would-be enemies and try to lure them into confessing and making statements that enable us to prosecute them for conspiracy to commit terrorism, you know what our people do? They tell them, hey, you need to be an enemy of the United States. We're fighting wars in Afghanistan and Pakistan. We're fighting wars in Afghanistan. We're sending predator drones that kill women and children as well as militants, however we distinguish them. That's the way in which we get them to say, oh, I'm angered now, we need to retaliate. They don't say, hey, you should come up and we need to get the United States because there's freedom here. That's not true. And you remember that colloquy that was reported recently between Faisal Shahzad, he was the Times Square bomber, he was going to put a bomb in that vehicle there at Times Square to blow. And he pled guilty to conspiracy to commit terrorism. He was a U.S. citizen. And he was asked by the judge, well, why did you commit the crime? He said, well, this was war. You're attacking Afghanistan and Pakistan. So we have to respond with warlike measures as well. He didn't say he did this because he hated women who didn't have headscarves on. Then the judge, Cederbaum, said, what about women and children? His response was, well, your predator drones don't make any distinctions with women and children. They come and crash into wedding parties and otherwise in Afghanistan and Pakistan. He didn't say, well, but I hate freedom in the United States. We're making enemies with our projection of force, as Jeff celebrates, rather than reducing the enemy. And moreover, he has not addressed, in my judgment, the major issue, the enormous toll it takes on our own freedoms, the surveillances without warrants, the violation of due process and whatever. Moreover, he's suggesting that under the model of criminal justice, hey, you can't do anything until they've attacked and slaughtered us. Aside from the fact that we've already, under his plan, killed ourselves, had more than 9/11 inflicted on our Afghanistan and Iraq. It's not true. The criminal justice system is forward-looking. Conspiracy law enables us to prosecute people just after they agree. They flirt with a bad idea. Much before anything bad happens, we prosecuted the leaders of the Communist Party USA in the 1940s for conspiring to overthrow the government a century in the future under conspiracy law. That's how forward-looking it can be. And moreover, you don't need the legal architecture and declaration of war in order to do targeted assassinations, if you will. The doctrine of deadly force applies in the civilian context as well. If you have proof that someone is creating an imminent danger, you cannot capture him. And his evasion would enable him to create a significant danger of death or bodily harm. You have a right to use deadly force against that criminal. It isn't just sitting back and saying, unless we're at war, we have no muscular arms at all to defend ourselves. which is utterly and completely ridiculous. Now, I want to just briefly state, it simply is not an attack on the criminal justice model to say we did prosecute people before 9/11. It was a horrible crime occurred on 9/11. By the way, Mr. Moussaoui was charged with murder, thousands of murders in his prosecution over across the river here in the Eastern District of Virginia. It's true that there's nothing that a criminal justice model or war model can do that gives you 100% certainty that there will be no effort to repeat the crime. But that's also true with murder. There's 17,000 murders that happen every year. We've had 170,000 since 9/11. We prosecute the cases. We sentence them to life. Sometimes, like McVeigh, they get death. Murders continue to exist. We don't suspend habeas corpus. Hey, we're declaring war against murder. We go into their homes without warrants. We try to detain anybody we think might be a murderer in the future. No. We understand there has to be some measure of risk in life for liberty to flourish.